Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today, returning to the show, is Jack Loss. Jack is the Vice President of Strategy and Innovation at Improvix Technologies. Jack, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, JP. It's great to be back.
Yeah, and I know we've got a lot of exciting developments to cover, but let's start with yourself for those who didn't catch the original episode we did a few years ago. First of all, tell us a little bit about you, your background in technology, and how you got to where you are today as the VP of Strategy and Innovation for Improvix.
Sure. Yeah. So I started with the company back in 2019. So it's been a little bit over 6.5 years at this point. And my background is very technical. So I started in sort of software development and cloud engineering, naturally sort of progressed into some data analytics requirements based on some of the projects that we were working on. And then in parallel was working on my MBA with sort of this long-term vision of wanting to be more on the side of bridging the gap between the business and the functional requirements and sort of the technical components. So I naturally sort of morphed into that, and that's where I've been living for the past few years. So it's been a great journey, but excited to be here.
Wonderful. So let's set the stage again for the audience who didn't catch the original episode we did, which is a few years ago now. Tell us about Improvix. First of all, who you are, what you do, mission of the business, and sort of the key areas that you focus on.
Absolutely. So we're an IT services company at this stage, largely focused on the national security sector. We primarily focus on 4 capabilities areas. So we do data and AI, application services, cloud and infrastructure, and cybersecurity. And so we've really refined that over the past several years, but a lot of our ethos is really driven on culture, and we'll get into that in some of the subsequent talking points. But I think in the government contracting world, it can be hard to cultivate that. And we've made a clear point, and we have some specific things that we're doing internally to really drive that. And then also sort of this focus on mission. So with all this interest in innovation and emerging capabilities, we are very dedicated to sort of aligning that to the mission of our customers and having that strong unity in all of our output.
Yeah, I want to get to the new enhancements and the refined focus and innovation side of things. But before doing so, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the journey. And when you look back, particularly over the last 2 years, what can you share with us about the demand, the growth, what you're hearing from your customers, and how has that led to the refinements of your offering into those 4 key areas?
Absolutely. So there's a couple things that really stand out since we'd last spoken. One, I think on the data side, it's no secret. I mean, AI is the hot thing right now. There's tremendous growth and interest in that area. So for the public sector, it's been interesting because commercially, you can see just with ChatGPT and all these other sort of competing solutions, it's developed very quickly. But in the public sector, the question is, how do we sort of capitalize on that capability with security in mind, so that if we're creating a large language model or kind of creating an agency-specific ChatGPT equivalent, how do we give it our data without exposing it to training? So we've really refined our skills in that area. We've put a lot of time in our innovation lab and on our client programs into developing that out. And that continues to be a major requirement. Similarly, data management. So historically, we had done a lot of data analytics, and we'd work with different agency partners on, onboarding the data that they were looking at from a mission standpoint, creating some intelligence around that, and then providing it in a dashboard, in a report, something to that effect. But now there's a much greater focus on sort of the surrounding capabilities of data management, data governance, data security, and all of the sort of enterprise architecture underpinning that. So we've expanded our capabilities there to kind of make sure that while we do continue to focus on data science and data analytics, they're part of a more comprehensive and integrated solution.
Let's stay on that because I want to help the audience visualize what that looks like from a practical standpoint. You're engaging with your customers who have very unique set of needs given the data sensitivity, the data security, the selective nature of what technology they can implement given the space that you operate in. But when you're in there, you're unearthing other problems that you can solve. And we'll get to that more in a minute for innovation. But are there any recent customer stories or examples that you could share with us without disclosing the exact agency, but anything that you can share with us which would demonstrate how you're getting in, you're finding a problem within data and AI, but then you're also helping them solve broader issues?
Sure. So one that stands out that's very recent is on a large application services contract, sort of at an enterprise scale. We took the current emerging and sort of government qualified capabilities around AI and applied them to the requirement of customer intake. So this particular customer, a huge portion of their work is not only in developing applications, but also sort of engaging with mission aligned stakeholders, truly understanding the requirements and the gaps in the operational capabilities, and then refining a backlog of development work to build. Historically, that had been a very manual, arduous process that often involved, lots of meetings and kind of trying to wrangle the right stakeholders. And by the time you even had a set of requirements to really assess whether you were going to pursue, maybe you'd spent 5 or 6 hours in several meetings just to find out, hey, this isn't viable. Maybe there's something that already exists. So what we had done is we took some FedRAMP authorized services in Amazon GovCloud and built an entirely new AI-driven customer experience through which there's actually a self-service component. So prospective customers can come in, they can describe their requirements in plain text, just like you would in ChatGPT or something to that effect. And very quickly, it has the context of all the organization's existing systems and applications. It will sort of assess what you're asking for functionally with the current capabilities of what's in the environment today. And then if it is aligned to what's existing, it can point you directly to that and how to get access. Or if it's new, it can actually provide a notional architecture, a prescriptive path for solutioning, and then that becomes sort of the key artifact that the downstream development teams use. And so we've basically cut down this whole customer intake and engagement process from like 5 or 6 meetings to 1 or 2.
That's huge from a ROI standpoint, from a speed and execution standpoint. It's incredible. Jack, you talked about the 4 different capabilities that you offer to customers, and you referenced the innovation lab. I think that given what you've told me about the innovation lab, it requires probably a bit more information, maybe a standalone question. Help us visualize what it's like to be a team member working at Improvix, and what does the innovation lab entail? What are you guys doing? How does that impact the employees and then subsequently feed into those 4 capabilities later on down the line?
Sure. So the way we've structured the lab right now is there's really 3 major components. Firstly, there's what we call the technology playground, where through our partnerships with technology vendors, with academic institutions and mission partners, we've created this sandbox ecosystem where we have deployments of all of these commercially available and in-demand resources. Any of our employees or partners can sort of explore them openly and test them, build integrations, develop workflows, and whatever the case. But this is a way for us to kind of upskill and provide a robust training environment for our staff. And the goal there is really just to kind of promote continuous learning, make sure that they have sort of a no stakes environment to be able to explore openly and collaborate, maybe even beyond their immediate program teams, sort of across the broader company. The second part of the lab is what we call integrated solutions. So that's where we've taken sort of these sandbox environments, but we're looking more intentionally at what are the common mission objectives of the national security segment? What are sort of these emerging capabilities, whether it's with AI or automation or something adjacent? And how do we translate those into something material and tangible in the form of a demonstrable solution? So that's where we'll develop a project scope. We'll have a team of contributors that Improvix employees can work on together, and then they'll build, this predictive model, this secure AI app dev solution, whatever the case may be, in a completely and fully formed solution. And then the third part of it is what we call the technology workshops. So it's really working directly with our customers and agency partners to identify specific challenges and objectives for their mission, and then leveraging our internal subject matter experts and our network of technology alliance partners to develop proofs of concept, to build sort of an accelerator of sorts so that we can test the solution maybe before the customer has fully invested and really make sure that it's viable, it's feasible, it's efficient, and it's going to work fully as expected. So through those three things, I mean, the goal overall is where we talk about those four capabilities areas: data and AI, application services, cloud infrastructure, and cybersecurity. We talk about them distinctly, but really they're all integrated. And so with those three pillars of the lab I mentioned, the goal is really to drive value through those three mechanisms across the entire portfolio. So that's been our focus, and that's really where we're building some of these projects.
Your leading strategy and innovation in the world of AI and agentic AI it's sort of a brave new world. Like you're really trying to think of what's possible with the advancement of the technology, and given the leaps that we made, even in the few years that it's been since you and I last had a podcast interview, it's changed dramatically. So when you think of future use case applications within the realm of national security and homeland security and defense, what are some of the things that you see possible in near term, given the rate of innovation within AI and the demand from customers? How are you seeing this all play out in near term?
Sure. So there's two things specific to that we're tracking and proactively working on in the lab. One is, I think, going back to what we had spoken about a little bit earlier, there's an increased focus on these broader data capabilities, much of which are more aligned to mission analytics and use cases versus pure IT or cybersecurity data sets. So from an emerging capabilities and focal point perspective, one of the things that we're doing is we're partnering with a research institution, a university, on developing a predictive model for civil unrest. And so sort of looking at open source indicators, social media platforms, news outlets, all of this data that's sort of out there, curating and integrating it into a singular plane, and then developing a machine learning model to basically say, hey, based on past events, these indicators or these features might be predictive of this type of event. Maybe there's a risk of occurrence. There could be a violent aspect. And so it gives sort of public infrastructure the ability to make sure that people are supported. There's a little bit more intelligence and proactive planning around some of that. So
Super
that
cool use case application, especially when you think of some of the recent events in the last few years where ill-prepared state and local governments or resources leads to pretty disappointing outcomes. So being able to anticipate that is best for everyone, whether it's public unrest, protesters, and the people on the front lines. So that's a cool function. going back to one of the things you talked about early on, the importance of the team and culture. Improvix has been growing steadily in order to meet the demand, and I know there's an exciting roadmap for future growth, both in the acquisition of projects, but internally the talent and the resources. From day one, when in the many conversations we've had, you always emphasize the importance of culture, and a lot of great companies do that. But I want to talk about the getting the team right from a technical standpoint, industry understanding, and then also fit within the way Improvix likes to work. So you speak to talented people all the time. How do you describe it to an AI engineer or a developer or someone in the space? This is what it's like working with us.
Sure. I think from my firsthand experience, I mean, the biggest thing for me that stood out, that's really exciting about the culture here is we do really have this promote from within mentality, where there is a true growth trajectory for folks if they're engaged, if they're contributing. We like to retain, we really like to kind of give people a path to flourish. I think for us also, there's a big focus on team focused delivery. We really like to hire sort of team-minded individuals, folks that are not necessarily always about like their way is the highway of sorts. Like it's really about a collective mission-focused output. And so we have this very sort of fun culture where we're certainly professional and we're getting our work done, but there's sort of an enjoyment aspect of just we have good relationships at the working team level. We have sort of this ecosystem like with the lab where we're continuously promoting different platforms and ways for people to get engaged above and beyond maybe what they're doing for their specific client program. And the other piece of it is that really kind of explains what we look for and what we focus on. There's something we do now called Rip It, and it's become a hashtag. It's kind of a consistent theme on our website and other branding. But that's really our 4 core values. So respect, right? We got to respect our teammates, our partners, our customers, the missions we're supporting, and everything that we're doing. Honesty, right? We need to be transparent in how we're delivering. We need to be proactive in our communications, especially if there's a potential delay or challenge that we need to address as a team. Integrity, right? You know, especially in the remote distributed environment we're in now, that's become especially important. We need to make sure we have people that are trustworthy and have that integrity element as they're delivering their work. And then performance. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're performing, we're meeting the mission requirements and executing to the letter. And so Rip It has kind of become our term internally, but those are really how we sort of evaluate people and what we focus on promoting.
Wonderful. I love that. And that's something I think a lot of people can get behind. Forward looking, again, I know some conversations that we're having outside of the podcast world is very exciting near-term roadmap for Improvix, and you're going to have a very busy 2026. There's definitely going to be opportunity for people who are working both within AI, digital transformation, data, who also have either prior industry experience or a desire to get into this space. Where do you see the need to strengthen? Where do you anticipate wanting to bring in more resources to help you guys to continue to deliver as you've done so successfully?
Sure. I think one area that we're always looking for additional support and will continue to grow is actually on the business analysis side. The technical pieces are certainly important and there's always a need there, but I think for true valuable delivery, all the good technical support teams are complemented by very strong functional staff. So having business analysts that can really understand and get into the mission, engage with the customer, and then certainly translate those requirements effectively and in an actionable way for the technical teams is key. So that's one of the areas. Another is definitely sort of these low code and no code application development platforms, whether it's ServiceNow, Uncork, or anything in that realm. I mean, there's just a continued interest in that capability, especially from the lens of efficiency. And then lastly, I would say cloud engineering. It has been a big area for a while, but it continues to grow, especially as some of these federal workloads migrate from on-prem to cloud-based deployments. We always have a need for very competent cloud engineers, especially with multi-cloud expertise. We're seeing agencies are not necessarily just looking at one specific cloud provider. So I think those three areas are really key as we're going. And then sort of underscoring all of those, I think it behooves everybody at this point to have some solid foundational education on AI and how it could augment or sort of accelerate their specific functions. But those are really the three core roles.
Final question from me, Jack. It's been a tremendous journey for Improvix, and particularly these last couple of years, and it feels like you guys are just building more and more momentum. There's so much more possible in the year ahead. So when you look at the opportunity in front of you right now, hearing what you're hearing from existing customers, incoming customers, what are you most excited about for 2026?
I think for us, I mean, we've really enjoyed leaning into the mission aspect. I mean, I know it can sound kind of cheesy or brandy, but really, I mean, when we started several years ago, I mean, when we were focused on pure IT service delivery, I think we, like many, I mean, you sort of fall into this fallacy of like tech for tech's sake, at the expense of really what is the value, what's the outcome, what's the mission implication. And so as we've matured our technical capabilities and really invested in those emerging capabilities, we've built the lab, we've expanded our internal infrastructure, there's always this lens of mission. And so as we've done that, we've had the ability to more closely engage with our customers in the national security sector. And like the level of conversations and sort of the focal points of what we're talking about are genuinely very exciting for us. I mean, just being able to see, okay, yes, we are this enabler of sorts for the mission, but we're aligned to the point where we see in the field now, what does this look like in practice? How is this actually helping somebody internationally, or, you know, protecting the security or safety of an American citizen? I mean, that kind of stuff at a functional level has been really rewarding for us. So I think leaning more into that, as we have been, is what I'm most excited for.
Jack, thank you so much for coming back on, my friend. It's great to share the updated version and updated story of what's been going on at Improvix. And what's always been very cool about what you guys do is the space that you're operating in. It's more than just providing technology and AI capabilities, but it's who's using it and what real life impact it can have. And that's always a fun story to share. And clearly it's resonating, and given your reputation, it's when you've got case studies of value add, it's very easy then to bring that to a broader customer base. So like always, we wish you, the team, and everyone at Improvix the best of luck in the years ahead, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.